All right. I told you guys about Joe Padner. Now I want to tell you about a project they gave me that I couldn't get it to work. And I kept asking to talk to the guy, and here's what happened. On this tube right now, I have a circle of magic marker. Within that circle, if you can look at it, you might be able to see the branding on the tube. All right? There's numbers. It says VR 150. So this is a voltage regulator for 150, and it's etched into the glass. Now they don't use a chemical. Here's the story. So for whatever reason, the department next to us wanted to be able to brand the tubes with a number. Now it might have been that something went wrong somewhere. Someone was trying to track a problem down, and they wanted to be able to put a mark in the glass. So rather than go to production, which might have been where the problem was, they talked to this other guy, and he sent them a branding machine. That's what they call it, a branding machine. So the other department gets it, and their four techs look at it, and they're like, no, no, they're in union. They're not going to touch it. So they come over, and the boss in the other section says, my boss, your boss said that you would help me. So I went over there, and it's a unit. It's about 2 foot by 2 foot, up off the floor, 3 foot high, and it's got it. It has a compressor in there. Uh, it has a bag, and at the bottom of the bag, there's a nozzle, and then there's powder in the bag, and then it comes up like a funnel, and it's hooked around a rim. And then in the middle of that is a stencil made out of rubber. It's about a quarter-inch thick. It's got numbers in it that are reversed because you're branding it. It's got to be backwards, right? Well, anyway, it's got numbers in it, and there's a clock on this thing, a timer, like up to 30 seconds. And there's a foot pedal. You touch the foot pedal, and the compressor comes on for whatever amount of seconds. It blows this powder up, which is an abrasive, up into the stencil and onto the tube. That's what it's supposed to do. This thing doesn't work at all. Nothing works on it. None of the control lights, nothing. This is something that's been in a department somewhere else, and it's been picked clean. And someone's taken all the good parts off it and put the bad parts on it. So the first thing was the timer didn't work. I'm a clock guy. I took it over to my bench, opened it up, and then I went and I found in the safe, I found a timer, and it was a different amount of time, but it had the maintenance in there. So I did the maintenance on the timer, put it back in, and when you hit the foot pedal, the timer would come, it would go zzz, and then reset back to zero. So now the compressor is supposed to come on for so many seconds. Well, that's no good. I take that bench, clean that all up, get that oiled and everything, bring that back. Now that's working. So then there's control lights and stuff that are, but anyway, I refurb the whole machine. I take it all apart. I use a paintbrush on it and a vacuum cleaner, and I build it all back up. So now when you put the powder in the bag, the nozzle's at the bottom, you step on the foot pedal, the nozzle blows from the bottom of the bag, it sends the powder up into the stencil, and it brands the tube. And what it does is it rubs the glass off, and it leaves a frosty letters. You've seen this on tubes if you've held a tube in your hand. That's how the tube is branded. So it does work, it don't work, it does work, it don't work. So the guy that got me to work on it, he comes over and he's like, it's not really working the way we want it to. I said, let me talk to the guy that works one of these machines. There's got to be a couple tricks to it. Something's going on. I don't know what it is, but my boss right away says, he rebuilt that clock timer. So they go and they find one, same time. They put it doesn't work any better than mine. It's a piece of junk they found somewhere else. So I rebuild that one. We're back to square one. So I said, look, I know I got the right amount of pressure because they did things are marked. We have enough pressure. Well, how'd you know that? I said, I went and bought a pressure gauge. Right? I had to go all through this stuff for like 3 different bosses. It was really stupid. I said, I need to talk to someone that works with one of these machines. Well, something was going on. So they don't. So they pull me off it, and they give me the look like you failed us. And trust me, that eats at me. So I go back to my bench, and I'm telling them, I said, this thing makes no sense at all. So 3 days later, the unit's gone. And I asked Kenny, and he goes, you know what was wrong? He goes, you did a good job on that machine. He says, you know the bag where the powder is? I says, yeah. He says, the guy stole the heater off the unit. And he says, the bag is on the electrical system. You would never know it was stolen. It hooks on this, the bag that comes up, there's a bracket, it hooks on there, and you turn it on. When you turn the main power on, it heats the bag up, and there's a thermostat in it. And it brings the temperature up of the grit. And that keeps it from sticking to itself. Well, I'm on the 3rd floor of a frickin' Thomas Edison building, built out of asbestos and leaded paint, and it's always humid in those buildings. I mean, really humid. So it would be like you would call it sandblasting powder. It was even finer than that. It sticks together. It also, when you shoot it up, it was shooting up the powder and etching the glass, but some of the flakes or the grit is sticking to another piece, and you don't get the acceleration. I go, and I tell him, he goes, yeah, they really stuck it to you. He goes, they gave you a machine that didn't have all the parts. Now, you can't even relate that to a car. Like, say, they had me try to fix a car that didn't have a motor in it. Or I think the only thing you could relate it to is they give you a car to fix, and they took out the computer board from the box. But even that, you would get a code. You would know the computer wasn't in the car. But here, this heater thing goes up over the bag, and there's 4 holes. It clicks into there, and it's got a thermostat on it. And 3 wires come down, and they get attached to a terminal board. So when you turn the machine on, the power is on for the compressor, for the timer, and it's not there. And no matter what you do to that machine, that powder is always going to be sticking to itself. And you would never know that because you've never seen one of these machines before. And they won't let you talk to the guy that works on these every day. See, if they would have had the guy that works on these branding machines come over, he goes, oh, you got to put a heater on there. Where's the heater? After I rebuild it, he would notice the heater's missing on this. But for some reason, they wanted to do this secretively. I don't know what they were up to. No one ever told me. But I went and I got my engineer friend, and he goes, they stuck it to you. He says, they gave you a machine missing the part. And then when he said the heater bag, I knew right away. I was looking at this grit, and I'm like, yeah, this machine's got to work. You could tell the machine was so old, you knew it had a lot of hours on it. And then the timer went bad, and then things got clogged, and the guy pulled the compressor off. He put a different, they stole from that machine everything they could, even the light bulbs. They stole the light bulbs out that told you had power on, and then one would blink on for the timer. And it was amazing what they pulled on me. They got away with it too. And after I realized they pulled that on me, and it wasn't my department. And the 4 guys, I went over and said something to them. They go, we knew right from the beginning, don't touch it, because they weren't getting the full story. And see, I'm more naive. If someone asks me to do something, I'll do it. I won't keep questioning them. I'm working for these guys. For RCA, and then one of the bosses asked my boss if he can borrow me, because his 4 guys are like, I'm not touching that. That's not in my. They would always pull out their paperwork, what they were supposed to do, and what they didn't want to do. They would say, boss, that's not in our write-up. Go get someone from the production floor to come up here, and that's what the problem was. They were trying to brand tubes upstairs, and I think what they were trying to do was, at the end, each department was charged. Our department charged another department, and they were trying to save money in a department while charging another department for any kind of work they were doing. See, I was a tech. They moved me around between buildings because they had techs that just refused to work on certain things. I told you the guy with the giant tube. It was a rectifier tube for submarines, and I think I said the filament was like 5 volts, but 10 amps inrush current. And the guy Joe, another Joe, a lot of Joes in our shit. Joe put it on the tube on an HP supply and popped it. And then he changed the fuse and blew it up. He blew up like 5 supplies because he kept reading that the tube was 5 amps for the filament. And what it was is the inrush current was 10 amps. And it would pop out the power supply. And that's the first thing I did when I went over there. I called over to Kenny. I said, Kenny, we've got those tubes in for the submarines. I said, what's the inrush current on the film? And he's laughing. He's like, inrush current? But nobody else in the place would ever say the word inrush current. See, the tubes say it's 5 amps on the spec sheet. Well, that's when the filament is hot. When you first turn on, the film is cold. It's a lot less resistance, and the inrush current is really high. I said, this guy's over here. I said, he went through like 10 HP supplies. And I said, well, bad enough he blew each one out. He changed the value of the fuse. After you blow 2 or 3 out, but no. Now that's what I was up against. But the funny thing is, they give me a machine I never saw before, and I totally fix everything on it except the part that's missing. And I look back on my life now when that guy asked me who Joe Padner was, and then you could be sitting there, and then Padner would come in. Oh, you didn't know there was a heater on it? How come you didn't know that? And that's what I was thinking about the story. It's like they wouldn't dare come and tell me that, well, the reason you couldn't fix that machine is we didn't give you all the pieces. They just hid, and they didn't want anybody to know what they were trying to do. But I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a ghost on the thing. You might be able to see it now, but it's etched into the glass mechanically. It's not etched into the glass with a chemical. You know what chemical etches glass? And it's not hydrochloric. It's hydrofluoric. And then the first time someone said to me, you can etch glass with an acid. Right in my mind, I'm like, well, what would you put the acid in if it could eat glass? What does it come in? And the guy goes, I don't know. And I asked around. Finally, someone says a real simple answer: a plastic bottle. The acid will eat glass, but it won't eat plastic. I think that's it. All right, that's it.